Hello, everybody. Welcome. Alexander, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Same Flexity, how are you?
I'm good as well. How are you?
I'm good. Man, there's a lot of background noise from your side, Flexity. About Tesla, how are you? About Tesla, how are you? About Tesla? Connection issues. Okay. If anyone, there we go. Thank you very much, Thomas, on YouTube live chat. Ellie, how are you?
Hey, Aman, I'm great. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. What do you use for your microphone? Your microphone is so good lately.
I'm
Did you
just
change
talking.
something?
Yeah, I'm just talking to my phone in the last few days instead of using my AirPods.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that too sometimes, especially when I'm recording the one-on-one interviews for my YouTube channel. I do that. And did you realize the microphone on your phone is actually in the back, not in the front when you're doing this? I say it again?
No, I wasn't aware.
Yeah. So it actually improves when you flip it over. Anyway. Let's see. About Tesla, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. What's the latest on the FSD rollout?
Well, it looks like we're in a pause, so there haven't been any updates in the past couple of days. Nothing. Either they are on vacation right now for the holidays, or we should expect a new version out pretty soon.
Yeah, Omar tweeted something about 12.5 dot. Man, I'm missing the. Oh,
That too, probably.
Right. Can you tell us about that while I fix the YouTube audio?
No, I don't know much about this, so that might be coming. So we will see. There's nothing yet. No, I don't know much about this, so that might be coming. So we will see. There's nothing yet going to customers, so only rumors. Maybe so. Omar, if he stops by, might have some.
That's gonna come out soon.
Hopefully we'll see. So I mean, it's been a while, and usually, while they're testing or releasing a new version, checking the telemetry and everything, I'm sure there is another training cycle going on in the background. So basically, every week or at least every couple of weeks for sure, but maybe even sooner than that, we should have a new version ready internally. And then it's basically a decision for them to roll it, to start pushing it to the to employees, to customers, and so forth, depending on what they're seeing. So I'm pretty sure they have a new version ready, but now it's just a decision whether it's good enough to start pushing it out. So hopefully we'll see one way or the other. If they stop, pause the rollout for like 3 days, like now, it's usually an indication that they either found something in this one that they don't want to roll it out, or they just have another version pretty much ready and they're just waiting for some final quality checks before they start pushing it out. So that's I guess we'll find out. One thing just to explain to everyone, because I know everyone is anxious, especially those on the hardware 3 who have been waiting for a version for so long time. Just understand that this is not the Tesla's priority right now to roll it out as quickly as possible to everyone. It's still in development. They still need to test it. They still need to compare it to other things. And also keep in mind that this is a critical software. It's not like a new version of Microsoft Word. No one will get killed if there is a bug in it. here, human lives depend on that. So be patient. Sometimes it does require a slow rollout. They need to check and recheck every time they get some report from the field about some issues. They need to look into this and see if this is something unusual or bad in the version, and decide whether they want to proceed with further rollout. So it is normal to have slow rollouts and frequent pauses in the rollout whenever they see something, or also if they see that the new version is much better, why continue rolling out the old one if they're about ready to start rolling out the new one. I see Omar is here, so maybe he can tell us about this, the rumors about that new upcoming version.
Yeah, before Omar, let's go to Alexander, who's had his hand up. Alexander?
Yeah, about Tesla, can you see if they are updating a regular Autopilot in the US as well?
I'm sorry, if they're updating what?
Regular Autopilot.
Regular Autopilot. You mean though for those who are not on FSD?
Yes.
Well, it's really hard to tell because all I can see that this latest version, this 12.5.1.5, it's only going to hardware 3, but there is no information like on Tesla 5, for example, whether those customers are actually using the FSD or they're using just regular Autopilot. So I wouldn't be able to tell, but my assumption is that it's mostly going to those who have FSD, either subscribe or purchased. Whether they use it or not, that's unknown.
Omar, welcome. How are you?
Hey, doing good.
Good. Can you tell us about this .2 update?
Well, I haven't heard anything about it, but I did see a few comments from people who said 12.5.2 is even better. So I don't know if it's true or not. It's the internet. Someone could just be making it up. But oftentimes, when you do have testing with employees and it expands to wider batches of the employees, you can have somebody leak. This is a company, obviously, with thousands of US based employees. And often word gets out one way or another when these updates start to be in testing. So if so, we could potentially see a new update. And oftentimes we'll see this with rollouts where you have a rollout of an update, then you see a new version come, but it's not like they kind of start over in the rollout. It's more like the new version kind of replaces the old version and then they continue going from there. So quite often when you roll something out, you discover issues that maybe you didn't see when the rollout was smaller. And in some cases, you'll say, okay, well, we've got this new version. It fixes this issue. Let's roll that out next. And, it's hard to know what's going on internally. But from what I've been seeing on hardware 3 and hardware 4, there's no major showstoppers. So I would expect to see a lot more updates go out this week, potentially even with a new build.
Thank you. Ryan?
Hey, Yaman. I don't normally come up here, so I'll be brief. I know you like that. I'm going to be just a little more than 10 words, though. I just wanted to say something real quick and give some gratitude to you. The Tesla community welcomes everyone interested, of which you're a big part, Yaman. And I just wanted to thank you for that. I've grown both my community and I've learned tremendously from your space and the people that you bring up here. That's all I got to say. Thank you very much, Yaman. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. And Ryan reminds at the top of your screens to please like and repost this space. Let's grow the audience in the coming days, weeks, months, years. Michelle, how are you?
Awesome. I mean, I get Sunday number 2, and you guys too as well this time around. And yeah,
Taking it slow. Okay, good. And Michelle, we have so you can make it to AI amateurs space tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, and Omar can make it as well, I hear. So that's great. So we're gonna do another AI amateurs space at 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Omar, so Green, the Only, shared a map and said Tesla is collecting additional data. Can you tell us about that around, he said WB Studios in quotes.
Yeah, so we do have a story from Bloomberg out on Friday saying that the Cybercab unveil, which I've said was going to be held in Los Angeles, I expected it to be held at the design studio in Hawthorne. But that's not the biggest space, maybe for this type of event that they want to do. And it's also next to it's on the same location as the SpaceX rocket factory. So there's quite a lot of stuff going on there. Maybe not an ideal location for a Robotaxi unveil and demo. So we got word that they're actually going to be doing it at Warner Brothers Studios up in Burbank, which is also in the LA area, maybe about 30 minutes or so from the design studio in Hawthorne. And, it's a really interesting location. A lot of people started kind of thinking right away, if you've ever been on the Universal Studios studio tour or the Warner Brothers studio tour, they show you how, in Hollywood, everything's fake, obviously. When you see somebody walking through a city, a lot of times it's not a real city because real cities have all kinds of people walking around that mess up your shot. So you build a little fake city with buildings that are just facades, right? So it could be a really interesting place to do a Robotaxi demo, right? You can't legally have these vehicles without steering wheel or pedals on the road. And also, I haven't seen Tesla apply for a permit to run it on the road, but you could possibly have the studio area and maybe even an area around the studio closed off to send the cars out and give a live demo to people. So, what would make this real Cybercab event really hit home? I mean, showing the vehicle is one thing, but I think people really want to see it work. So having a live demo in the area on Warner Brothers Studios and letting people take their first driverless Tesla ride in, just about a little over a month now, I think would be pretty exciting. So Tesla has up from is around the Warner Brothers Studios. Long story short, this makes it seem even more likely that we're going to be seeing a live demo in the area. Send me video of what you were doing. So it seems pretty likely that at this Cybercab unveil, we're not just going to get to see the vehicle, people are actually going to get to ride in it.
All right, very good. So do you remember back in Autonomy Day in early 2019, Tesla gave rides to analysts? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that was faced with criticism. Some analysts said, yeah, this is really cool. But some of them said, we had this many disengagements and interventions during the ride, and it was like this and that. Do you think it's going to be, the feedback is going to be about the same, like mixed like that? Or do you think analyst community will be just extremely, enamored by the technology?
Well, I'm not sure how many analysts are going to be invited. Probably I would invite the major analysts. But I mean, this is going to be a completely different experience in 2019. In 2019, the software hadn't been released and wouldn't be released for 18 more months. And even once they released it, it could barely drive straight. Now, this version is going to be driverless. Not only is it going to be driverless, the old version had a driver in the driver's seat. Not only is it going to be driverless, there's not even going to be a steering wheel or pedals on the car. And the environment is a closed course. I mean, there's basically everything that can go wrong. They've eliminated it. So they're kind of, cheating in a sense for the demo. It's going to be, working perfectly because they've tested the hell out of it, right? I mean, if you're on a movie studio backlot and you carefully test the route that you're going to go, there's not really that much that can go wrong, especially if you've seen, what the latest capabilities of FSD are. So I think that pretty much everybody who gets the demo is going to say, wow, that was perfect. It was smooth, it was human like, and there was no driver.
So you're confident there will be no steering wheel or pedals in this vehicle that they showcase?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the whole idea.
And how many do you think are going to be in the event that that give people rides around?
Probably at least 3 to 5 if they're going to be giving people rides, because I can imagine what the line would be like if there was only one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Michelle.
I mean, even at that point, if it's gonna be boring, you might as well even introduce like a fake dog that crosses the street and the car brakes, or like artificially create something interesting to prove that the car is gonna react to something in the road, and then it's gonna keep going when it goes away from the road or goes around a parked car on hazard lights, or like they could introduce even interesting events in the ride.
Do you think each Robotaxi is going to have a different interior? Omar?
Why would it have a different interior?
Just to kind of showcase what the future might be like. Like if you want to work during the trip, you can call up one Robotaxi. If you want to sleep, you can call up another one.
I don't know. I mean, I would think that might make things kind of complicated. Maybe long term those options are available. But I would imagine or kind of expect one mass produced design that just allows them to achieve the lowest cost per mile. Maybe you could make it customizable. There were some interesting filings they made with the Australian government where they said we should be able to recline our seats down to flat and, turn the seats in the other direction. This should be part of the standard with autonomy. So, I mean, I think Franz and his team are going to have something really interesting to show us, but I'm not sure how many different interior options there will be. Probably the first version I would expect to just be simple, a simple ride sharing appliance. And maybe in the future they could have different options, or maybe they have some way to customize it built into the standard version.
Thank you. Mr. Pickles.
Yeah, nobody needs to worry about the Universal Studios demo. I heard they're getting Danoed out to set up one of his little obstacle courses all over the place. It'll be very entertaining.
Go ahead. Mr. Pickles?
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can hear me now, but I was saying that no one needs to worry about being entertained at the Universal Studio demo. They'll have Dan O'Dowd set up a little obstacle course, I'm sure, and yeah, there'll be all this chaos.
I mean, maybe,
and the stock will go down.
maybe, who knows? Maybe he'll be there too. You know. Did the invites go out yet, or do you think? How many people are
I
going to be
haven't
there?
heard of anyone getting an invite.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious how many people are going to be there. I'm sure it's going to be incredibly popular. It's only a couple weeks away now. Michelle?
Maybe even a school bus with a stop sign, because I mean that's a railroad crossing, that kind of stuff. Like, they would be nice to showcase what was not ready in the software yet. Maybe like that they unveiled something new. The car is able to back up, that kind of stuff.
You think they might show advanced smart summon? Actually smart summon?
Well, if the car is driverless and you're able to hail it, it's even more than advanced smart summon. But yeah, that's obviously part of it. The car needs to be able to reposition itself empty.
Yeah, maybe do some 3-point turns. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, personally, I'm more interested in the design of the hardware. If it's going to have the same sensor suite, if the position of the cameras are going to be different. So what they announce, what they unveil, might have implications for the existing fleet. So, Omar, any thoughts around that? Do you think, let's say, for example, let's revisit that question. Do you think there's a chance that the purpose-built Robotaxi might have a different sensor suite, whether it's different places for the cameras or additional sensors?
I mean, there have been some Model 3 spotted with a different sensor suite. Like, kind of, they have tape over the B pillars, and they have a slightly different camera arrangement. So I assumed, and a lot of people assumed, they must be validating the Cybercab on that Model 3, kind of trying to have a similar camera placement there. One thing that we do have confirmed by the company is that it's going to be a pure vision robotaxi. So don't expect any LiDAR. I wouldn't expect any radar either, although, maybe they could add it. I wouldn't be that surprised to see it on something like this. But I also wouldn't be surprised to see an entirely pure vision robotaxi. That's what they mentioned in one of the earnings calls. But the vehicle itself is going to have a different design. And that may mean some slightly different cameras. I'm not sure. I think they would probably try and make it consistent across the vehicles. But if you look at those pictures of the Model 3, it is kind of interesting, the way they've set it up there. So I am expecting some differences. I'm expecting it to be powered by AI5, but broadly a compatible pure vision robotaxi that can run the existing software.
Thomas in the replies says, "Can't wait for the day I can go to sleep in my car and wake up at my destination." I agree. And thank you very much, everybody on YouTube live chat, for letting me know that the audio quality is good. Keeping me updated on that front. Doing a lot in the background while the space goes on, so it really helps when people do that. And thank you, Ryan, for reminding everybody to please like and repost the space to grow the audience. That's important for our sponsors. So, 2 sponsors. Let's give them a quick shout out. Paymore. Are your old electronics collecting dust or ready to upgrade? Visit Paymore and turn them into cash. Paymore buys, sells, trades, and recycles electronics because Paymore believes the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Join the Paymore revolution and make a difference for our world. Visit one of the 100 Paymore stores near you or visit paymore.com. And our second sponsor, Joa. TSLA Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. Joa offers everything you need to enhance your Tesla ownership experience. Don't miss out on our special offer for Space listeners. Use the code TSLA Live at checkout for an exclusive discount. Thank you, Joa, for supporting the Tesla community. Both links are at the top of your screens. Please support our sponsors. Thank you very much. All right. Omar, did you watch Brad, the Figure AI founders interview that I sent to the AI amateurs message group? Have you seen that one yet?
I watched the beginning and he just sounded like such a tool. I had to laugh, but I didn't get around to watching the rest.
Let's talk about that tonight a little bit. So tonight on the AI amateurs episode, I'm gonna watch that one after this space and try to see if there are any takeaways for the Optimus project. We can compare, contrast. I saw a couple of clips on it, and he was very positive about Optimus. He sounded very, sportive.
Of course. I mean, he's trying to make the same thing a reality, right?
Right.
So if he wasn't a fan of Optimus, he wouldn't have started Figure.
Yeah. Alexander.
Yeah, I watched the interview. If it's the same interview you were thinking about, but he got a lot of questions comparing him with Tesla, and you could tell that he got pissed several times too. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
What did he say when he got pissed? Like, how can you tell he was pissed about it?
No, he referred to one question as stupid. So yeah.
Oh, really? Well, that's not good. Yeah, I'll watch it tonight. But I mean, how can you get pissed? Like if Tesla is going to be like, can you imagine if Tesla didn't have an Optimus project? Would this guy be able to get all the attention that he gets today and raise billions of dollars that he raised? No. So, he should expect to get these questions.
He pretty much.
Yeah, I sent him a reply one day and told him to, tell us about it in here. But if he comes, obviously he's going to get a lot of comparison questions with Optimus. But the basic question is, how are you going to differentiate yourself? Anyway, so these are the things that I want to talk about a little bit tonight on the AI amateur space.
I mean,
Let's see.
This guy gives me Trevor Milton vibes. I'm not saying he's a fraud. I wish Figure well, but he does not have a history of launching successful businesses. His last business, the flying car business, there's no cars flying around yet. Okay. And that's a publicly traded company. Investors have lost most of their investment, of course. So you look at this guy, he does not have a history of delivering. He has a history of, big ideas, not of actually delivering on those big ideas. And you look at China, I mean, there's 50 different humanoid robot companies that all look incredible there, right? And there's companies like 1X, there's so many other companies. So how do you differentiate yourself against not only these other companies, some of which actually have manufacturing expertise and have a track record of delivering products on their team, but also with Tesla? Elon just tweeted a little while ago, the XAI 100K clusters online. And in a few months, they're going to increase it to 200K. Now, that 200K cluster is going to be used to train the language model for Optimus, which is going to be Grok. And meanwhile, over at Tesla, they're just bringing up another 100K facility in Texas. That facility is going to be used to train the vision system for Optimus. So, you got this 300,000 GPU compute cluster that cost billions of dollars. Like, that compute cluster cost more than Figure's valuation. And you're going to compete with this and train a better model. How exactly? And, people just take it seriously because they make a nice marketing video.
Alexander.
Yeah, they just secured an investment of like $700 million. So they have pretty much a good cash balance right now.
Well, I mean, if we know from Rivian, cash balance isn't end all be all. Uzi.
Oftentimes, the worst thing you can do is give your employees a bunch of cash and tell them to spend it. Then you end up with a bunch of costs. And then when you have to cut those costs, everybody's sad because their friends are getting fired and they're not allowed to spend on the company credit card anymore.
From my experience on X, Brett has soft skin. Not soft skin, sensitive skin. You make one comment about him in relation to Tesla, and he'll block you. So just so everyone knows, if you want to get blocked by Brett, I agree with Omar. He's a PR whiz, but I really question the substance of what he's producing. He sort of reminds me of Sam Altman, but I think Sam Altman has more merit. And I think OpenAI being able to be hooked up to Figure is probably the greatest thing that could happen to the Figure bot.
Yeah. Michelle.
Uzi stole my thunder. I was gonna say that right now it's legitimized because of the OpenAI partnership. But to bounce on Omar point, like they don't have a training cluster, so that means that if even if they have lots of money, every time they want to compute or train something, they pay someone else's cloud to do it, and the money's gone. It's a very different kind of investment when you have metal and servers and you put it up, then you can use it as much as you want. But if you pay cloud services to do your compute, then the money's gone. You get your training out of it, but if you want to do more, you need to spend again the same amount.
Yeah. Yeah, Tesla is vertically integrated in this regard, whereas Figure AI is going to have to, I guess, they're going to have to use Microsoft's, right? Omar and Alexander.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people mention this Figure OpenAI partnership, but if you look at the video that they posted, it's just a surface level OpenAI API integration. So anyone can use the OpenAI API and have a robot talk, right? You can do that and you can pay a few cents per request. But it's not necessarily how you want to architect a product like this. First of all, OpenAI is not going to let you run the model on your robot. Those weights are top secret. So you're going to have to connect to the internet and run that model over the internet. So if your robot's going anywhere the network's unreliable, like a dead zone in your house, it may lose a significant part of its capabilities. So, OpenAI and them, let's say they developed a next generation model that could work really well. It's not going to work as well as a model trained to run on the device on native inference hardware. And the bigger problem really is OpenAI would own the model. So why does Figure then become anything of value if OpenAI has this robotics model? The whole smarts are the brain of the robot. So if OpenAI has a general model that can run on any robot, not just Figures, then what really is the value? So I think, OpenAI is kind of like a big name in AI. They wanted to announce a partnership, so they said, okay, we're going to use the OpenAI API. But that alone doesn't provide any differentiation. And also, if you look back at how they announced the deal, they said Figure raises X million dollars, X $100 million, announces OpenAI partnership. So they announced this in a very tricky way. If you're just reading quickly, you might think, oh, OpenAI invested in the company. But actually, what they said is we raised some money And also we're using the OpenAI API, and maybe we're going to use some next generation robotics models with them. So this is like the kind of thing that I say gives me Trevor Milton vibes, because everybody goes, "Oh my God, wow, OpenAI integration," not realizing that even a teenager can use the OpenAI API without having to do any special deal with Sam Altman.
They are actually training their own models as well. They're not just relying on OpenAI.
Right. I mean, you would have to train your own models. You can't rely on just going out to OpenAI. Most of the functions of the robot need to be handled locally on the robot itself.
No hands mode. No hands mode. Uzi.
I also wanted to point out what Omar mentioned with the vision. I'm not sure how Figure is training vision or like a spatial understanding with the Figure bot. It is cool that you can have open, ChatGPT attached to the Figure bot, and it tells us that Grok can be attached to Optimus and be its personality. But in terms of training the spatial awareness, I don't know where Figure is getting that from.
I mean, you can train models to do vision tasks. You can look at like Stanford Aloha, for example, and they were able to train a model to do a bunch of tasks, and they didn't even use that many examples. But the hard part is, can you get it to always work? That's where the cost of not only training but also data collection starts to go up very fast.
I think NVIDIA invested in Figure, and it was like 2 weeks ago. Jensen was talking about, I forgot the name of it, but he said with training, you can simulate different environments and you can simulate different, I guess, action sets to the same outcome. And that's how you can accelerate, I guess, a training data set. But I assume NVIDIA, as an investor in Figure, is applying that technique for Figure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard for them to get reliability. I mean, as Omar said, making something once or twice is maybe easy, but making it 100% of the times, that will be really hard. I mean, imagine the robot being in the kitchen and doing something wrong, and then all of a sudden you have a fire.
Did anyone see the 1N bot, the videos that went viral this weekend? Last weekend.
1X or
1X, my bad.
yeah, I saw it.
It seems like they're more competent than Figure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, there are many companies that seem more competent than Figure. When I looked at their executive page, it was all Brett Adcock's friends from his last company who left the last company with him. It's like, here's our like VP of sales. It's my bro, Logan. It's like, huh? Like, this isn't exactly a good sign. How exactly are you going to beat, companies like 1X, companies like Unitree, these Chinese companies that have the greatest manufacturing supply base in the world? Everybody knows this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market, and everybody is fighting to grab a piece of it. So this is going to be absolutely cutthroat, and survival won't be easy.
Does anyone here believe that Optimus will make appearance on 1010?
Wow,
100%.
seems like a safe bet. Not
What
a
do you think it's going to
certainty,
do?
but a
Yeah,
safe
I mean,
bet.
I hope it does, because we haven't had an update from Optimus anytime lately. So I hope they showcase Optimus something. But what do you think it would be doing?
Get out of the Cybercab and, I don't know, load your
Del-
bags.
Deliver a pizza,
Yeah, that could be good.
Michelle?
Just
plug the car. I mean, we've talked about Robotaxi for years in the space, and like people always come up, but how are they gonna plug the car? So like that's the first question people think they're super clever asking about. And I would plug the like, here you go. Just like he plugs the car.
What happened to the snake charger?
But all of these other robots have a feeling of the competition is coming vibe. And we know where that went.
Yeah. Well, that's a complicated topic. So would you have? I mean, Michelle, how would that work though? Do you think they would have one Optimus at each supercharging station instead of snakes at each stall, Alexander?
I mean, it's more of it's a scene that strikes the imagination, not like that it's the solution for at scale, but it's really to stop yourself and say, well, there are solutions to that problem, but is it the solution that's gonna scale up at scale? I'm not 100% sure,
But
but
see, Elon doesn't do that kind of stuff. He doesn't showcase something that's not going to scale, that has no path to scalability. Like, can you imagine if there was an Optimus at each supercharger, and there's going to be some haters that go up to it, mess with it, and any sort of like videos that would come online afterwards, like Optimus being harassed or fighting back, like that would be a PR disaster.
Just give it a gun.
Yeah, exactly, right? Just talk about the PR. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's scalable. So I hope they showcase, but I don't know if that's going to be it.
Maybe the Robotaxi will have wireless charging, induction charging.
I mean, the robot is going to have to be a part of the solution. Wireless charging definitely is very scalable, very simple. You don't have to worry about someone kicking over the robot or some Cybertruck comes in blazing and runs over the robot. Everybody has to watch the robot get murdered. Its arm flies out and hits someone's car. Kids are traumatized. But I think the power of the robot is that it can take the existing infrastructure, even an existing Electrify America charger or something, and it could allow a Cybercab to use any of that. So one solution could be that you just have your robot in the car with you, and when you arrive, your robot gets out of the car. If so this would only be if you're doing a super long distance trip in a car without a driver for some reason. So the robot would have to get out and plug the car and then get back in. Other solutions could be, you could just ask somebody to plug it in using the external speaker or wireless charging. But I think having a robot in the car basically allows you to use any supercharger. And then having either a robot attendant or a human attendant at the supercharging station to plug in any driverless cars is just kind of a simple solution that lets you use all the infrastructure on day one.
Would Optimus be weatherproof?
It would have to be to some degree. You don't want, hey, Optimus, can you go pick up some milk from the store? And it rains and now your $20,000 robot's dead.
That's what I'm thinking. If you're charging in Northeast, I get California and Arizona. It's ideal. You have no rain really ever. But Optimus at a charging station in half the country and it's cold, that might be a question too.
Well, they can make cyber snow boots for it. And he'll just climb out of your trunk right next to the charge port. Maybe just reach out of your trunk without getting out and then grab that cable. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a complicated question in some ways, but it's also simple in the sense that you just need somebody to put the cable in the car.
Any other questions, comments about Optimus? Please request to speak. Oh, look at this reply. Unwise words in the reply says, my guess on Optimus on 1010, it will be manufacturing the car.
Interesting, but I mean, the Cybercab is using this new unboxed process. So I'm imagining we'll hear a little bit about the unboxed process and what it entails, how it's such a revolution in manufacturing, or maybe not. Maybe they'll save that for a separate time. But I wouldn't be surprised if we heard a little bit about it. Tesla is big on pioneering new manufacturing methods. And it could be that the unbox process was designed to be more modular in part so that it could be more serviced by automation, such as Optimus. But of course, a complete manufacturing of a car seems far too complex for a humanoid to do on its own. So maybe there's some Optimus working alongside the humans, but um, I would expect it would have to at least be a hybrid approach.
Yeah, and I don't even think that Optimus has the capability to lift some of the stuff that has to be lifted and then reach as a regular industry robot has.
Good. We have a really excellent speaker board right now, and everyone has been here for at least 1 year, I think. So you're very familiar with the rules of the space. I think we can keep going with no hands mode for a while. Chansu, no hands. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you guys think Tesla Master Plan Part 4 will be unveiled before 1010?
I haven't heard anything about that for a while, so if I had to bet, I'd say probably not. I think the event will probably be focused on the Cybercab itself. I'm not really even sure what Master Plan Part 4 is supposed to entail.
Regarding Optimus, it will be interesting to see if Omar is right about the universe studio place. If some Optimus will just be the pedestrian to disturb the car every now and again.
A wild Optimus cross the road and the car breaks. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think there's really incredible progress happening on Optimus. Like, you guys have seen the videos that were coming out and how quickly it was evolving. You guys think the progress just stopped because they haven't showed us a video? No, I think from what I've heard, they're making rapid progress. But because there's so much competition, they don't necessarily want to tip anybody else off unnecessarily. So I think what they show us at Cybercab, or sorry, the 1010 event, could be very different and far more advanced than the last Optimus video that we saw several months ago.
I'll let your imagination run wild. What do you think that could look like?
Well, given that Tesla has started using this in the factory, I would imagine an initial version is really geared towards um, factory use cases, industrial use cases. This is really where you want to focus initially, right? So I expect future versions of Optimus that are more, consumer focused, household focused, maybe a cheaper version that can't lift quite as much or pull quite as hard as the industrial version. But the initial market, this thing initially at, somewhere around $20,000 and with limited software is going to be far more useful in a industrial application than in a household application. And, you don't really want this thing burning your house down. So I think that's really where they're going to focus initially. They're sort of eating their own dog food, putting it in their factories. They've said the next step is to sell it to others to use in their factories, not in their homes. So I think you'd really want a hardware design that's just great for the factory and just really focus on dominating that use case, because that's what's actually going to get you profitable in a market where everyone is going to be fighting for cash flow. I mean, this is a market much like robotaxis, in that there's a huge upfront R&D cost and you may not ever get any money, right? So it's a very challenging business to make work. And Tesla's obviously got a existing business to stand on the shoulders of, but the business ultimately needs to be sustaining itself on its own merits. And I think that's going to be the really critical use case to focus on to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree with Omar. First couple of Optimus will be in industrial settings. Do you already have the safety thinking in the industrial setting? Regular automation robots are already like caged in for safety. You don't want to have the first robots near humans until you know it's safe.
I've always argued that Optimus will start in the factory and then have its hero's journey, come into retail, coffee shop, and then our households. But the key is the 3D concept, where it's these dull, dangerous, and dirty jobs. And it's interesting that Elon has more of a plan to sell Optimus to other factories than FSD to other companies. So I think there's more of maybe there's more demand.
Wait, can you say that last sentence again, please?
Yeah, I find it interesting that Elon has expressed more of a plan to sell Optimus to other factories than to sell FSD to other car makers. So I don't know.
Well,
why.
I don't know if he what do you mean by he expressed a plan? I don't know if he like specifically said.
Like he's stated, like
Right.
we'll sell Optimus to
But
other factories.
no specifics, right? Like, so how is that different from we would license FSD to other automakers?
I've not seen that in a minute. I don't know if anyone else has seen that, but it seems like Optimus being sold to other factories is more part of a concrete plan to scale it up.
So we know the first step is to use it in Tesla's own factories. And then, Omar, do you think Tesla will exclusively send it to other companies, or do you think it'll make Optimus available for everyone to order, whether it's households or other companies?
Well, once it's generally available to companies, a household could even buy it as well. I imagine it'll be sort of more exclusive at first, certain partners that they're working closely with, kind of like the Tesla Semi did with PepsiCo and Frito-Lay. But if you remember back in 2016, 2017, 8 years ago at this point, Elon Musk had a vision for the Model 3 production, the alien dreadnought, where the car materials would just go in and magically a car just comes out without any human involvement. And he ended up saying, well, that was a big mistake. It turns out we actually don't have the technology to do that. And, it almost killed the company. But I don't think he's forgotten about that idea. He maybe didn't want to touch it again for a while. But I think he's been thinking all these years about, well, what would really be required? And you look at how they've changed, for example, the wiring architecture of their car. The wiring, a lot of it is now these stiff parts that they kind of snap in rather than kind of like this loose wiring that's much more difficult to automate. Things like the unbox process, adding more surface area for people to work. Okay, now the robot doesn't have to get inside the car. Like if you see in like the Tesla factory, it's kind of crazy. One of the people who does the wiring inside the car is on a seat, and the seat is attached to an arm, and the arm moves them up and down the production line on this seat, and they swing into every car, put in the FSD computer, swing out with their chair, swing into the next car. It's pretty wild. Compared to, if the thing is modular, then Optimus can just work and install the FSD computer without having to do this crazy maneuver of swinging into the car. So I think this is really kind of where they're going, is towards a factory where you don't have any people, and the factory just keeps running and producing more robots and more cars. And obviously that's not going to happen all at once. There's going to be more robots and less humans gradually over time. But that would really be the sort of next generation production process that could dramatically reduce the cost of a car.
All right, great. All right. Do you got anything else on this topic? Please request to speak, asking questions, comments. We've been in this for about an hour. We have another hour to go. And then tonight we have the AI amateur space. That will probably go for about 60 minutes or so. Michelle is going to be there. Omar is going to be there. If not, actually, talking about the cost of production for cars, Omar, let's talk a little about these resale values of used Teslas. I'm starting to see used Model 3s now in the $12,000 range. At that point, these batteries are designed to go hundreds of thousands of miles, and gas savings alone could pay for that used Model 3, especially if somebody adds them to a Tura network or gives out some Uber rides a couple times a day. Like that alone would pay for the car. I actually called one of the dealerships and kind of asked questions like, what's wrong? Is there anything wrong with this car? Any dents? They have all sorts of pictures. No issues appears, like there's no accident reported on the vehicle. Do you think this trend of resale values, EVs, used EVs proliferating and getting cheaper, more affordable for the masses is going to continue in the coming months, coming weeks, coming years? And what does that say about the need for a $25,000 sticker price Tesla? If somebody can get a couple-year-old Model 3 at $10,000 or even cheaper soon, do you think the market is ready for a $25,000 new Tesla today?
Well, I haven't seen a lot at 12,000. I'm seeing more like, around 25,000, maybe a little under. Maybe that gets you to 21,000 with the tax credit. But generally, I think the used EV market is going to continue to have more used EVs, right? More EVs get made every year. So every year, more used EVs are going to come onto the used market. Now you're going to have Tesla's cheaper cars, their $30,000 car, come onto the market. Now, when that car is 3 to 5 years old, how much is it going to be on the used market? It's going to be $10,000 to $15,000, maybe, depending on your configuration. So we're only going to get more EVs on the market. There hasn't really been a used EV market before. Now there is one. And it's amazing if you're trying to get into FSD for the first time. You don't have to be a rich person to start using FSD now. You can just find a car, maybe even get a good deal at a dealership that has FSD included. And I think this trend is generally set to continue with more affordable models coming into the market. EVs really aren't hitting those entry price points that the ICE market is hitting yet. So that entry level segment of EVs, Ford has talked about it, Tesla has talked about it. I think that's going to continue to push things forward. And there is a need, even though obviously you can buy a used Model 3. Sometimes people want a new car, but they want it to be an affordable new car. In particular, in the European and Asian markets, they would love a car that's smaller than the Model 3 or Y. Think a mini Model Y. They would love that in Asian markets and European markets. In Japan, the Model 3 is too big for them to fit in some of their parking garages and stuff like that, just barely. So there absolutely is a market for a smaller, cheaper vehicle, I think, even if the used market for existing EVs is building out.
Yeah. I pinned at the top one example. So this Model 3 is a 2022, so only 2 years old, but has 122,000 miles on it. Black, so just standard everything, just base everything. It had 2 owners, clean title, no accidents. 13,999. And then you can see the price progression starting with May 26th of this year. They first listed it at 20,999, which tells me they want to price it just below 25, so that it qualifies for the $4,000 credit. And then they include these third-party dealerships include the $4,000 credit in the sticker price. So it's 20,999 they started with, and then they increased it and then lowered it to make it look like there's a price cut. And then it kept going down. And every 2 weeks or so, they've been lowering it by $500 to $1,000. And the latest price is $13,990. So you can actually go for lower. And these are third-party dealerships, so it's not like Tesla's used page. You can actually throw in a lowball offer and see if they'll give it to you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, a car with 120,000 miles on it, the battery warranty is typically 120,000 miles. So there's a lot of used Teslas on the market that have less than 122,000 miles on it. I'm sure this car is kind of physically beat up too, in terms of just the wear and tear on everything, the exterior, the interior. So if you can find one that has, let's say, 60,000 or 40,000 miles on it, that would probably be a much better deal, because then you know that the battery warranty is good for at least another 40 to 60,000 miles, and you're probably only paying a few $1,000s more. The risk with this one is, something breaks on that $14,000 car, and fixing, for example, the control arm, or maybe there's something broken in the interior, maybe the center console tray is broken, maybe your mirror won't turn, whatever. And then, okay, maybe there's some issue with the battery, maybe you even need a battery replacement. If you need a battery replacement on this thing, that could cost then $10,000 or something. You'd probably be better off just buying one of the used cars for 24,000 in that case.
Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video this morning from Auto Trader, I believe. They interviewed a Tesla repair guy and asked him about the cost of repairing a Tesla battery. And he said Tesla doesn't offer repairs for batteries. They'll just replace it with one, and that can cost about $10,000 to $15,000 depending on the battery. But the repairs itself cost about $5,000. So you can actually take it to a repair shop that specializes in these things and get your battery repaired for half the price.
Well, for most people, their vehicle's under warranty, so Tesla will just fix it for them free of charge. And they don't really have to worry about that. But if you are out of warranty, then you might want to call some third party shops. I was just talking to some guy on Spaces last night who was talking about his Tesla Roadster, the original Tesla. And he said, well, I went to the Tesla service center and they said it would be $45,000 to get a new battery. And I went to Peter Gruber and he was able to repair the battery. So there are definitely things you can do. But most of the time, I think new and used EV buyers want to buy a car with a battery warranty, particularly with so much anxiety, especially from people who are new to EVs, about expensive battery failures. I mean, this is one of the most common FUD points you hear. Having that battery warranty just gives you peace of mind that anything happens to the battery and drivetrain, it's not going to be a financial problem for me. It's their problem.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Michelle, Shansu, Ellie, any comments on this topic? Use Tesla's battery replacements, battery repairs. If anyone in the audience has had an experience getting their battery repaired or replaced, either by Tesla or a third party, please request to speak and share with us your experience. If you don't want to come up to speaker board, you can always leave a reply to the space in the blue pill at the lower right corner. And because this is a topic that is an attack vector for fraudsters. This is a huge attack vector, and I think it's misplaced because any car can have any ICE car can have their engine requiring $10,000-$15,000 of repairs or replacement cost. So this applies to everybody, but people, all the special interests and the fraudsters use this potential battery cost, replacement cost as a reason to not buy a used Tesla. And now we're seeing used Model 3s at $12,000 price level, which is insane. The fact that it can just pay the gas savings and maintenance savings alone can pay for this thing is really amazing to me. Not to mention, Tesla offers industry-leading warranty. If you just look up, Tesla Model Y warranty, Tesla Model X, Model S warranty on Google, compared to a BMW 7 Series or a Toyota Camry, you'll see Tesla's warranty periods are much better than any other automaker, really. Michelle?
So, a close friend of mine, customer as well, but he was a regular taxi driver, and when Uber came around, I was like, "You gotta make the jump. It's the future," and he committed to it, and he did it. Then Teslas came around, and I was bothering him. His Toyota was coming to an end, and he was like, "I'm looking for a new car." I'm like, "You gotta jump on the future, just like you did with Uber." And I convinced him to get a black Model Y, just enough for the requirements for Uber to be a black car service, like even like their most expensive service that you can hail to go to the airport and stuff. And now recently this spring, as the used Model 3 went cheaper and cheaper, instead of renting Civic cars to, he has I think 3 or 4 drivers that works for him. He's going the route. He just purchased the second one, and he's gonna replace his rental fleet that he rents to these drivers with these used Model 3s between 50 and 70,000 miles on it. The price point is amazing. There's still a few years in them, but yeah, one of his points was that if he gets a lemon out of these 30, 50,000 miles left on the warranty, Tesla's going to deal with it, and then he takes on the risk later. But I'm wondering if these high mileage cars were used for ride hailing or in some sort of commercial way to have that many miles on them.
Rama?
Hey, first time I'm calling in. I've been following Omar for the last 6 to 8 months on X, and I learned a lot following him and other people like Sawyer and other people on these spaces. So I finally got my FSD 12.5.3, luckily. Just like that, showed up 10 days ago on my phone. I can't believe how great it is. I drove on the freeways in LA from Palos Verdes to 60 miles away to Claremont, back and forth. Local driving is way better than human driving. I've been driving for 52 years. This is a miracle. Whatever he says, I truly believe that. I want to tell Omar, thank you, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. We should hang out. My parents live in PV too.
Yeah, probably. I knew that you were showing all those videos. Reach out to me. Someday we can have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. But everybody else is contributing a lot, I got to tell you. I heard the speeches and the spaces 2 or 3 times only. I need to get in there more often. I can contribute. I'm telling people they can't believe it, how good it is once you get in. Otherwise, like you say, Omar, unless you experience it, you can't describe it to anybody. This is really a robot with 4 wheels.
Yeah, and just imagine they're building bigger and bigger data centers. It's going to get even more advanced, even more human-like from here. They're going to add the ability to call the car driverlessly. It's really like, this is one of the most exciting AI projects in the whole world right now.
Yeah. I just saw Elon put something there that he built this XAI, one of the biggest complexes. I think you asked him, when is it going to happen to Tesla, Cortex, you know? So I'm following you closely, along with, obviously, with Elon. Thank God he's speaking out for all of us about the freedom of speech, apart from all the great work he's doing with various things, you know. We got to make sure that he lives a long time.
Thank you, Rama.
Thanks,
I appreciate you coming up to the speaker board. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it this in the last couple of days here this weekend. A lot of people have benefited from this space. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people who have taken away at least one thing, if not more. And thank you to our great speakers. Omar, you being obviously the most, most informative one in this space. Thank you for coming every day and sharing your expertise and knowledge and insights with the tens of thousands of people that chime in, to listen in once, every week or so, and thousands of people that come in every day. So this is a really great space, I think. I'm proud of it.
And by the way, the gentleman who we just heard from, he's living in California. So these stereotypes you hear online, oh, everybody in California hates Elon, they are boycotting Tesla. That's not the reality. There's a lot of people in in California, who are getting a Tesla and trying FSD and just saying, wow, I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah. Okay, great. In other news, Norway, 94% of new car sales were EVs in the month of August. 94% of new car sales in Norway were EVs in August. Tesla Model Y was the leader as the best-selling car in the country. That's incredible. And China is also seeing majority of their sales EVs, plug-in hybrids. US is trailing a little bit, but Omar, do you think US will get there too? How long do you think it's going to take for US to get to Norway's, let's say, 94% of new car sales being EVs?
Yeah, it's a embarrassing showing for the United States. Every market is unique, and the needs of every market are unique. The United States often has a lot of long distance travel. It is the largest economy in the world, one of the largest fossil fuel consumers in the world, tons of industrial use cases. The charging build out hasn't been as good as some other countries. In Europe, they have great standardization around CCS that has created a pretty vibrant open charging ecosystem. And people tend to be, more concentrated. And in Asia, they've also had an incredible build out of chargers by electric utilities. The US seems to be a little lagging. We did have $7.5 billion for a federal charging subsidies, but the federal government has been slow to dole that out. So hopefully the US can catch up. I think we will eventually. People really seem to be in denial of the EV transition here in the US in particular. Around the world, people are increasingly realizing that EVs are the future. And when you look at things from an economic perspective, you just look at the cost of batteries over time, EVs are just going to dominate not only in total cost of ownership, but actually in upfront purchase price increasingly over time. So the writing's on the wall, it's kind of inevitable, but people don't really believe it here in the United States. And I'm not, it's just going to be really challenging, I think, to convince Americans to make the switch. The one thing that I think is really going to convince Americans to make the switch is autonomy, because Americans love technology and they are often in a ton of traffic. I mean, if you're in Southern California, Northern California, so many regions of the country, you spend a good part of your day in just insane traffic. And Americans are very tech forward. they love to spend on new technology. They don't like to be seen as, sort of using obsolete tech. And I think that is going to be a thing that everybody wants. And because Tesla is kind of a leader in pushing that, I think that alone is going to bring a lot of people into the EV side. And they're going to buy a Tesla because they want a car with self-driving. And they'll say, oh, okay, it's electric. Now I got to learn how to charge it. And once they learn how to charge it, once you know how to charge it, once you are educated in how an EV works and how to charge it, you start setting up a plug. You start to build habits around, okay, here's how I plug it in, here's where I plug it in. You're then far more likely to only consider an EV in the future.
Okay, good. I see we have Robert in the audience if he wants to come up with the speaker board, or tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, we'll have the AI amateurs space. Hope to see Robert there along with Omar and Uzi and others as well. Uzi, go ahead.
I wanted to point out the diversity of the markets in the United States, and how that's unlike, in Norway or maybe, China, where, the South compared to California are completely different. But the other point I wanted to make is that there's a common behavioral pattern amongst Americans outside of being technology forward, and I think that's convenience. And so I think that's the other factor that makes autonomy, like full autonomy, really attractive to the average American is, being in traffic, or, that sense of FOMO when you have the most convenient ride to work or out of state. Whereas right now, a Tesla, you have the battery FUD and all that, but for the most part, the prospect of having the most convenient option on the market is usually the most dominant in our society lately.
There's also a huge sort of regional difference. I mean, in particular in California, you see EVs already making up more than a quarter of new vehicle sales, which is pretty spectacular. When you look at the national level, it's only 9%, right? So you have certain markets that are actually adopting EVs very aggressively. And you have other markets that are way far behind, maybe 1% or 2%. And that averages out to about 9% nationally. But I think what you're really seeing is once you have that proliferation of charging, once you have your, Beverly Hills parking garage have charge point chargers and a bunch of superchargers all across Los Angeles and Venice and Santa Monica and West Hollywood and downtown, then people start to feel like, okay, this is actually a much more convenient option. So you need charging, you need service centers, and that allows the sales to sort of proliferate in those markets. And the other major issue, of course, is that many states don't allow Tesla to sell there directly. So that's also bringing down the national average, whereas markets like California kind of show you what it could be like with open laws allowing for direct to consumer selling and with a good charging and service availability.
It's very state driven. Like in New York, you get the HOV lane if you have a clean energy vehicle. So depending on the incentives the state provides, you'll act accordingly. But that's still not a mandate, right? It's more of an incentive for convenience in my case.
Yeah, so here in California, when you have an EV, you can apply to get a carpool lane sticker. This allows you to go in the carpool lane with a single rider. This benefit alone has probably saved me so much time that I would buy an EV just for that. In addition, in California, if I want to install a charger in my home, the government and my utility company will give me money to do that. So they'll pay me hundreds of dollars to get that installed. You can also get, for example, preferred parking. A lot of places they have an EV charger up front. You can get state incentives. Colorado just giving insane state incentives, $5,000 on top of the $7,500 point of sale credit. And then you have like some local incentives, like in the Bay Area, which I mean can just make these things insanely cheap. So it does really differ state by state, but there's a huge untapped opportunity in many of these states. They have the same kind of people, the same kind of American consumers you find in other states. All they're missing is a little bit of investment, laws allowing them to sell their cars directly, and you could have huge volumes of sales there. Like I've been hearing from somebody in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He says that sales are growing there so fast, they can't even wash the cars fast enough. They said they gave him a $50 store credit to accept his car unwashed. I was like, that doesn't really sound good. You should probably be washing these cars and making them look good, but I mean, growth is good. So, in California, you're actually seeing I think a 2% year-over-year decline in Tesla sales, whereas in other markets, there's a ton of untapped potential.
Wonderful. All right. Tonight at 8:00 Eastern, we have the AI Amateurs Space Episode 5. Hopefully Omar and Uzi are going to make it, and Michelle are going to make it. And I see Robert in the audience. If he can make it too, that would be awesome. I'd like to dig into Figure AI versus Optimus a little bit more tonight. Maybe let's focus on robotics tonight as opposed to AI, because I want that space to be both about AI and robotics. And then we can bring the learnings from that space into this daily space. Oh, wow. Drew Soul just put up a huge super chat on YouTube. Thank you, Drew. I'll put this up on your screens. Thank you, Drew Soul, a great supporter of this space. Much appreciated. Wow, that's amazing. He just super chatted $100. Isn't that crazy? That's amazing. That's awesome. Okay. And then at the top of our screens is a link to Patreon. Patrons get daily summaries of these spaces. And now, because of what I've been learning in the AI amateur space, and the AI amateurs really represents me. I mean, the speakers are way more experienced about this stuff than I am. I'm trying to learn. And the purpose of that, the primary purpose of that space is that I'm trying to learn in what ways I can leverage AI in my space, in my life. And if people want to tag along into that learning process, they're welcome to join the space. And one of those ways is now these daily summaries of TSLA live spaces are now generated by AI. I pull up the transcript, feed it into an AI, and then that spits out a bunch of bullet points. And I'm trying to get better with my prompt, more specific. And then I review what it says and make the necessary edits, obviously, combine things, subtract some things, and then publish it to the patron. So that's going to improve my productivity on generating daily summaries by 100 times. They used to take about 2 to 3 hours because I re-listened to the space and I would, pause it, take notes, rewind, etc. So that would take about 3 hours. Now it's only taking a few minutes. So they will be more consistent going forward. Daily summaries of TSLA Live. So let's say, for example, if somebody doesn't have, people have full-time jobs, they have other things going on in their lives, they may not be able to listen to a space every day. So instead of spending 2-3 hours of your time, you can just read a 5 to 10 bullet point summary that I think actually did a pretty good job. That the one I published over the weekend was a really good job. I didn't have to do much edit afterwards. So I'm going to keep that going. So these summaries are at the top of your screen. So that would save people 2 hours out of their day, and it's only $10 to join a month. So 2 hours a day times we run about 22 spaces, maybe 25 now with the AI amateurs. So that's 50 hours. So do you value 50 hours of your time, $10 a month? I think that's a great deal. So 20 cents an hour saved, basically. And this is the power of AI. So tonight, AI amateurs, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. All right. Omar, you're going to make it, right?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Awesome. Dallas, welcome. Would you like to tell us about what you mentioned in the replies?
Yeah, I'm just wrapping up about a 380-mile trip today, coming into Dallas from Branson, Missouri. I use Super Cruise as much as possible for the drive. Obviously, one limitation is it just doesn't work everywhere. So coming off of someone who's really used to using Autopilot, it is tricky. I think it's going to be good for the people who have never tried any sort of Autopilot and would never buy an EV. Soccer mom driving these big Denali's around, I think they'd enjoy this, but it's very limited. I mean, it'll freak itself out, and if it gets outside the lane at all on like a semi-sharp turn or a rounded turn on the highway, even though it's a mapped area, it'll disengage and it'll just say unavailable, and then you can click right back in and get back in. But it'll throw itself out of bounds. It's a little bouncy. I think the only benefit is that you don't. The attention monitoring is a lot more lenient, which I'm not sure if that's really a good thing or not, but they're way behind. I've been using it for about 5 hours straight today, and it's nowhere near Autopilot, basic Autopilot, I would say, and then obviously FSD, not even in the same realm.
Okay, great. Thank you for the overview. Omar, have you tried the Super Cruise thing? How do you compare?
Yeah, I have tried Super Cruise and I've tried Blue Cruise. Not all that recently. It was probably more than 6 months ago at this point. But I found it to be not as good as basic autopilot. Basic autopilot, of course, is free on every Tesla. It works on city streets. It works on highways. Anywhere there's lane lines, you can turn it on and it can stay within the lanes for you. Super Cruise is hands-free, just like the latest version of FSD, but only on pre-mapped highways. And I found that even when I was on pre-mapped highways, it would often make mistakes. For example, if the road got too curvy, failing to handle things that even the free version of Autopilot can handle, let alone FSD, which can do an entire drive now curb to curb, often without you touching the wheel at all. So it's a huge difference, obviously. There is no comparison, really. I would take Super Cruise over nothing if I happened to be driving a GM vehicle for some reason, but it really is just far more limited and far less useful than FSD.
Dallas, anything else on that front?
Yeah, I would say when it works, which it does. There are hour stretches where it's pretty damn consistent, but when it works, it's good. It does exactly what it says it does. It stays in the lane lines and lowers driver fatigue, I guess. My parents love it. They think it's the coolest thing since sliced bread, but they also haven't tried FSD. So I don't know. I think it's just okay. I don't see it getting any better though, because obviously, as we know, the mapped route just doesn't have any legs. So I don't know. That's kind of my review on it.
So this is your parents' car?
Yeah, we just took the parents' car just because they have a massive vehicle and we needed stuff to take to the lake. So, but I was kind of excited to try out Super Cruise. So I gladly accepted the loaner for the weekend.
So what's the vehicle? You said massive vehicle?
Yeah, it's a big XL Yukon Denali. So I guess the
Yukon
higher
Denali,
trim
okay.
levels come with Super Cruise, is what I'm being told.
Yeah, Denali.
Yeah, the Denali is like the top end.
Right. So when are you getting them a Cybertruck?
They actually both love the look of it, which I was shocked. My in-laws not so much, but both my parents think they call it the Batmobile, so they love the idea of me getting one.
What does the car that you're in right now do that a Cybertruck cannot do?
I don't know. My wife would tell you it has a Wi-Fi hotspot, which she thinks is the coolest thing in the world. So aside from that, nothing. I guess it makes loud noises with its 4 exhaust pipes out of the back, but I wouldn't say it does anything more than a Cybertruck can do. I guess it goes further. There's more range, but that's about it.
You said you guys needed to take some stuff to the lake. What are you taking?
Oh, we've got a bunch of coolers. We took the baby, so we took the snoo in the back, all that kind of stuff.
Cybertruck can do all that. Yeah.
They're about the same price.
Omar, what do you do so he says the Denali has a Wi-Fi hotspot and his wife thinks it's the coolest thing. What's the equivalent of that in Tesla?
Well, my phone has a hotspot built in that doesn't cost anything extra, so I usually just use that, and it
Yeah, I mean,
it serves the
I'm
same
actually
function.
right now. I'm using my phone's hotspot to stream this space onto YouTube, and it's been just fine. And I tried 3 other networks to see which ones I tested it before the space, which one's faster. And my phone's hotspot was 5 times faster than any other option. So Dallas, your wife can just use that in a Tesla Cybertruck.
You know, I think that's probably what we'll end up doing.
Yeah, when are you going to bring her to the space?
I'm not sure. She doesn't really speak tech. That's not really her thing. She thinks I'm a nerd, but I'm sure she'd jump in.
Yeah, we would love to hear from her. I mean, a number of people have brought their spouses. Wives have brought their husbands. People have brought their girlfriends or wives. And Edward actually brought both his wife and his son. So always appreciate when people bring their family, friends into the space onto the speaker board so we can get more diverse viewpoints. Michelle.
Absolutely.
I thought you were gonna say he brought his wife and his girlfriend. No, about like the Wi-Fi hotspot. These Denoli's, like these huge SUVs that they use for VIP transport. Let's say someone, an artist or a rap group lands in Montreal, but their show is like a few-hour car drive away. They use these huge SUVs to be comfortable for the few-hour car ride they have to do, but the reception and the cell phone reception was not that great going up north and in the mountains. So I helped them install these RV in motion use Starlink terminals on the roof rack. And the hotspot is like totally not dependent on cell phone reception. So these VIPs would have reliable Wi-Fi that they can work. Sometimes it's not just like rap groups; it's like business people, and they really appreciated having the reliable internet even while driving like up to a mine or a work site that's far from cell service. The internet was consistent even in motion, but it's a more expensive package to set up on a car. Like you wouldn't do it by default, but if that's a feature you want, I've seen people strap the Starlink Mini in their Teslas. Everything's possible if you really want that feature.
But good. We have a question in the replies from Jessica. Jessica Kirsch asks, has anyone heard when the non-foundation series Cybertruck might start delivering? Omar, any word on that front?
Well, probably next year, maybe if we're lucky, Q4.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe next year, hopefully Q4. That's going to be a game-changing vehicle, obviously. Okay. Any
Yeah.
other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Omar, anything else on your minds? We have the AI amateur space going on today. There was some news. Ryan took delivery of a Rivian, and one of the things he posted, and he likes the car, obviously, but he said Tesla's sound system is way better than Rivian's. So if you're going to get a Rivian, get the premium sound upgrade because apparently their standard sound system is worse than any Teslas by far.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan's second Rivian, he's obviously got a fleet. Had the R1T sold that, I think the R1S will probably be a much more popular rental than the R1T. But it's funny you mentioned Rivian. We had an interesting report out of Bloomberg that Volkswagen is considering shutting down some of their domestic factories. This would be the first time in decades that Volkswagen has ever shut down production that was happening domestically. And it's a really interesting situation. As you know, Volkswagen is heavily influenced by the unions and the government. the German state of Lower Saxony owns 20%, and they often side with unions. And half of the company's board, their supervisory board, is unions. So many CEOs have tried to shut down German production facilities in order to lower costs. Every single one of them got fired shortly after. So this is a very sort of challenging plan, but you just sort of look at the financial condition of the company. They have to do something. And it's interesting in the context of this $5 billion deal that they announced, where they said, oh, Rivian is saved. They're getting $5 billion from Volkswagen. But then you start to read the fine print and they say, well, we're going to give you a $1 billion convertible debt that converts into equity if we get regulatory approval and if we actually consummate the deal. And they're supposed to consummate this joint venture by the end of the year, which would give them access to, I think, an additional $1 billion investment plus $1 billion invested into the joint venture, plus another $2 billion in debt that the joint venture would take. So, on one hand, you're trying to cut German jobs and cut production to save money. On the other hand, you're giving billions of dollars to an American startup, which, by the way, is a non-union startup. And it's kind of setting up for an interesting situation. Rivian desperately needs this deal to be finalized as expected. And I do expect them to finalize the joint venture. We haven't heard anything about that. But if, for example, there's a fight about these spending cuts, or even, God forbid, Oliver Bloom is replaced with a new Volkswagen Group CEO, and this Rivian deal is in jeopardy, then the question of their capital and their balance sheet, I think, becomes more prominent in investors' minds.
Thank you. Yeah, that is big news. We'll see if Volkswagen can cut some production, or we talked about this last year, actually, the difficulty of workforce adjustments in Germany in this space extensively.
Yeah, and then I found out they have some job guarantee from 1999 or something, where they said nobody gets fired until 2030. I'm like, this is what, they've got just some great talent in Europe, but having these sort of policies where it's impossible to fire people are very difficult, and the unions kind of slow everything down. It's all about the union first and not about making a great product first. It's about making sure people have jobs. That's where you start to get in trouble, especially when you have competitors like the Chinese who come in and just upset the status quo. They're not worrying about the unions over there when they're building these Chinese EVs.
Great. Jessica, welcome. How are you?
Oh, go ahead, Omar.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was curious what Alexander thought.
Yeah, if Alexander is in the audience, he's welcome to come up and talk about this since he's located there. Jessica? So you're wondering about the non-foundation Cybertruck?
Yeah, I wanted to ask just a couple questions on that, but also was curious if anybody heard any further information about the fire in the Rivian parking lot at the factory. I thought that was kind of a little suspicious. But yeah, the Foundation Series Cybertruck, in terms of if we've had any updates on possible range. I know pricing is not something that people are going to know, but I appreciate anybody's take, even if it's just a guess, because I really am. I have what is it, a tri-motor on order, but I'd like to push it down to a dual motor. It'll still pull my trailer just fine. It's under, let's see, 7,500 pounds is my trailer. So it should be just fine with two motors. But the non-foundation series, I feel like I could maybe, make that possible. So Just curious as to if anybody any takes.
Omar, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they will make the Cybertruck cheaper over time, but if you just listen to what Elon's been saying, they are still losing money on every truck they sell. So by the end of the year, they hope to be break even. But then if they just go and cut the price by $20,000, then they're going to be losing money again. And it's going to take a long time to get break even. So I think probably we're looking at a disappointment for people. I mean, you look at all these NBA stars and NFL stars and everybody buying these things at 100K. They're not really having that much trouble moving them. So I think they will probably in 2025 move down to an 80K version. But I think it'll be set up so that and if and now they now qualified the Cybertruck for the EV tax credit officially. So if you could actually buy a Cybertruck for 80,000, you could get it for 72,500. But I think probably configured with all the stuff the Foundation series has, it's going to be the same price or even more expensive when the non-Foundation series comes out. So if I were to buy, let's say a Cybertruck with the same wheels as the Foundation series and with FSD and add premium connectivity and add everything, don't get the $2,500 Tesla shop voucher, it's probably not going to come down in price that much. It's probably not going to be a $20,000 price drop until they can really somehow bring the cost down. So, like, for example, if we heard that 4680 was just at much higher volume, that's something that could make the truck a lot cheaper. But right now, they're really struggling to not lose money on it. So if they can just not lose money on it, and the average selling price is still in the 90 to 100K range, I consider that a good first step.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I keep an eye on the resale values of Teslas, and Cybertruck is still listed for about $120,000. So above the used Cybertrucks are going for above the new Cybertruck prices right now, which indicates strong demand across the country and everywhere. I mean, we see people kind of surrounding, taking pictures, posting selfies with it. Demand is growing for the Cybertruck. Jessica Danuzzi.
Yeah, I guess it just goes to the range in terms of it sounds like you answered the question with the 4680s. We're not seeing an uptick in production. Thank you for answering that question, Omar. I appreciate that. And that makes sense. I didn't realize that they were losing money on Cybertruck, and there is excessive demand. So that would make sense that they wouldn't lower the prices. I'm kind of in a place where I want to just dive in, get something that can tow, but I don't want to buy a gas vehicle. And so it's Cybertruck, or it's a Rivian, or it's I don't know about a Lightning. And then the only other options are just getting like a gas guzzling, but I don't want to do that,
Okay. Uzi.
Some news Sawyer posted, there's XTV now, so maybe the space will be on our home TVs.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Has anyone tried it yet? I saw that post. Sierra posted it too. So X is now on TV. Let me just look at this real quick and pin it up here as well. We have 10 minutes to go. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. At the top of our screens is Sawyer's post. X has officially launched its TV app in the US. Discover a new way to experience the world of X as we bring your unique and engaging content to your living room. Search XTV on your TV to install it. There you go. Great. Michelle.
I mean, this space is already on your TV if you have YouTube, so that's checked. But it might incentivize YouTubers in posting their long form content if there's more discoverability and people as soon as they finish a video, you know that feature where on YouTube it queues up the next video and then it plays the next video automatically. We've seen that on the short form, on like kind of the wannabe TikTok on X when you hit a video and it plays the next one. But on the long form format on the TV, where videos are 10, 20, 30 minutes, and then it goes to the next one, with that kind of format for TV or YouTube-like videos, that's going to be interesting and maybe at least pushing content creators to posting on both platforms, YouTube and X.
Awesome. Michelle, so you're coming tonight, right? 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. What do you think we should talk about tonight in AI Amateurs?
Oh, I had my little bit about prompt engineering, so I'm gonna keep it close to the chest and expose it at 10 minutes. How I got good at prompt engineering, and it's a really clever trick. But I'm gonna keep it for that space.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You can really, just if you're careful a little bit about your prompts, you can produce much better results, whatever it is you're trying to do with your chatbot. So Michel, obviously, is the expert on that front. He's been working on this for years, and you have a list of prompts that you keep, right?
Yeah. Like I have a few I've customized for clients, but I recreated one last week when you challenged me to come up with prompt engineering as a subject for this week. And so I
Awesome.
recreated it and used examples of like summarizing your space as the work you want to accomplish
Oh,
more
that's awesome.
specifically. Yeah.
That's perfect. All right, looking forward to it tonight. Omar, anything else on your mind?
No, just FSD is driving me around really well, as usual.
Okay, great. Then let's leave it there. Thank you again, Drew, for the amazing super chat. And I will chat with you guys in a few hours in AI Amateurs. Take care.